Welcome to The Professor is Live. I'm Mark Salisbury, and that guy next to me, that's Rico Smart. And as most of you know, this is our live rehearsal. That will eventually become a broadcast, and, like the next day here. But let me start with a situation that probably feels very familiar. You sit down to work on something important, an email, a lesson plan, a proposal, maybe even a paper. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, it's like it's alive. This is unreal. Oh my. Hi?
Well, Rico, what do you think?
I think sometimes AI can overwhelm us.
Boy, isn't that the truth, right? Well, this What Could Go Wrong segment illustrates that before you're finished with that, whatever you're going to work on that's important, an AI system has already summarized the topic, drafted an outline, suggested improvements, and my favorite, politely asked if you'd like a second version in a more confident tone. And suddenly, it doesn't feel like you just have a tool, it feels like you got.
I think I have a metaphor here. It sounds like a new intern.
Exactly, right? And a very smart one who's read everything, one who never sleeps, one who's extremely eager to help. So here's the uncomfortable question many people are quietly asking. If the intern can already do the research, write the draft, run the analysis, what exactly is the human role now? That's the question we're going to explore today.
Welcome to The Professor is Live, a live thinking show for people navigating work, learning, and leadership in the age of AI. We start live on LinkedIn, share the recording on YouTube, and release each episode as a podcast wherever you listen. In 25 minutes, Mark Salisbury explores why human judgment still matters when intelligent machines can explain, recommend, and optimize almost everything. Through short insights, live interaction, and light humor with producer Rico Smart, the show helps you slow down, ask better questions, and make wiser decisions alongside AI. The Professor is Live is for professionals, educators, and leaders who want more than answers. They want clarity and direction.
Well, welcome back. So let's go ahead and try to make some sense out of this moment we're in. I want to borrow a framework from education that turns out to be surprisingly useful for understanding AI. It's called Bloom's taxonomy. And in its modern form, it helps clarify who should be doing what in a human machine partnership. Enrico, let's get back to your AI as an intern metaphor.
Oh,
Yeah, indeed. We can think of AI as the world's smartest intern. Brilliant resume, read everything, never sleeps, works at lightning speed.
so terrifying and unpaid.
Exactly. And as we can see from the figure, that's my little cue to actually bring the figure up. So what I'm going to do is share my screen so you can see this figure that we're looking at. And here it is. And so we can see that basically Bloom's taxonomy, and this isn't it quietly, this is a later version, but we'll get to that in a second. But what it does is it describes different levels of thinking. So the different levels are we start at knowledge at the bottom, then comes understanding, application, analysis, synthesis, and finally evaluation. And Benjamin Bloom originally developed this taxonomy in 1956 for educators to become aware of what their content was requiring learners to do. What level of thinking? So, Robert Krathwell was a young graduate student on Bloom's team that later revised the taxonomy with his own graduate students with a publication in 2001. The first thing they did was to revise the cognition levels, the different kinds of thinking. And as shown in the figure now, this revised version starts with remember at the bottom, then comes understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and Robert Krathwell's team put create on the top. So this is how they revised it. But note that it also the revision, we're going to get to, and you could probably already see from the figure, distinguishes different kinds of knowledge. So I put this all into one figure, and we can see that the knowledge dimension, the different kinds of knowledge, starts with factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural, and then that mother lode of knowledge is called metacognitive, and it's thinking about thinking. And I'm doing my best to describe these figures well in the podcast, but remember, you can see them on our YouTube channel or as a video on our Spotify home. Note that I also associated levels of thinking with different levels of expertise. So we got novices, practitioners, and finally experts. And this is all from my 2009 book, iLearning. Building off this, I also highlighted what AI should be doing and what humans should be doing in the creation of knowledge in my computer science book on how to build intelligent agents. Socrates Digital for learning and problem solving in 2021.
We may want to cut this for the broadcast. It sounds a bit braggy.
But I didn't even mention my latest book, Leadership in the Era of AI in 2025. But Rico, you might be right. But on the other hand, my sister might be listening. Getting back on track, here's the key insight. AI, our brilliant intern, is exceptional at the lower and middle levels. Okay? So we can get rid of our sharing the figure right now. So I'll go stop sharing. And then we can see that it remembers everything. It explains concepts clearly. It actually applies procedures flawlessly.
So that pretty much involves 80% of my job.
On paper, yes. But here's what we don't let interns do. We don't let them decide what the real problem is, what trade-offs are acceptable, what ethical lines can't be crossed, or who takes responsibility when things go wrong. That's when humans still come in. As we can see in the figure, when we move up Krathwell's ladder into evaluation and creation, we enter metacognitive territory. And it's seen in the upper right-hand side of the figure. And you know what, Rico? I actually quit sharing too soon. So we'll go back and we'll just see this on the ladder. And we'll take a look. And we see, when we look at the figure, that upper right-hand corner, that's where we have metacognitive knowledge. And it's at that level of cognition where people are creating and evaluating. That's where humans belong. That's what we should be doing. That's all to the right of that blue line. All that stuff to the left is the things that artificial intelligence can actually do better than us. So that's why we brought that back. And that metacognitive knowledge, this is knowledge about why something matters. When an answer is trustworthy, what assumptions are embedded in it, and what implications and consequences follow from acting on it.
So the intern can draft a plan, but probably shouldn't be signing a contract.
That's right. AI can generate recommendations. It can, but it can't really own the outcome. And that's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. And that's what humans should be shooting for now, is wisdom, because it requires context, values, judgment, and most of all, accountability. Our intern has none of those, no matter how smart it is.
To be fair, those aren't my strengths as an intern either.
Well, that's true. But eventually you learn that someone has to be responsible. And that's what's happening to all of us right now. AI isn't replacing humans, it's pushing humans into senior roles faster than we expected, which is why learning suddenly feels harder. We're no longer rewarded for remembering what the intern actually remembers better. We're rewarded for asking better questions, interpreting outputs wisely, and deciding when not to follow a recommendation. AI handles what and the how, but humans must handle the why and the should.
So we don't necessarily lose our jobs. We're just promoted without any warning or training.
Exactly. That might be the most honest description of the AI era yet. And that's why the most important knowledge humans now need is metacognitive knowledge, the ability to think about thinking, to guide intelligent tools responsibly, and to make sure that knowledge serves human purposes. That intern, that smart intern that AI kind of seems like it is, it's really incredible. But leadership, human leadership, is still required. Okay, let's pause and turn to the chat. And I would like to hear from you out there. Where do you already see AI changing how you learn or work? So we'll take a peek out there and see what's happening in chat. Looks like crickets out there to me, Rico. What do you think?
At least someone's listening. Do you have a quote for us today?
I do. And I want to close with a quote from the philosopher Hannah Arendt, who said, "Education is the point at which we decide whether we love the world enough to assume responsibility for it." AI doesn't change that responsibility, it clarifies it.
That's a very fitting quote for today's episode. Glad we didn't have to come up with that on our own.
Yeah, I had our intern look it up for us. Okay, as we wrap up, here's the idea I want to leave you with. AI is really like the world's smartest intern. It can gather information instantly, analyze problems at scale, generate options faster than any human ever could. But interns don't define the mission, they don't decide what matters, and they don't take responsibility when the decision goes sideways. That part still belongs to us. The real challenge of the AI era isn't keeping up with intelligent machines. It's growing into the kind of humans and leaders who can guide them wisely. Next time on The Professor is Live, we're going to ask, if AI can explain almost anything, why has learning actually become harder, not easier? Thanks for thinking with us today. Go to www.theprofessorislive.com to find out more. I sense a line should cap this up, Rico.
We'll see you next time on The Professor is Live.
You heard it here, folks. All right. See you next time.
You can find previous episodes of The Professor is Live in both video and podcast form at theprofessorislive.com. Full video episodes are available on The Professor is Live YouTube channel, and the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other major platforms. If these conversations help you slow down, think more clearly, and navigate the age of intelligent machines with better judgment, we invite you to keep thinking with us. You will find more ways to engage at theprofessorislive.com. Because in an age of intelligent machines, human judgment still matters.